Today I'm showing you how to build lead qualification forms and assessments like this one using AI and a tool called Weavly. So we'll start by going to the landing page. You can just specify what you need straight on the landing page, or of course you can just create an account and start in the product itself. I obviously have an account. So we'll be building two kinds of forms. In the first one, we'll be building a lead qualification form. So essentially your leads answer some questions that you gave them, and then there's a single score assigned to them, and depending on the score, you can show a different ending, or you can basically take a different action. That's lead qualification. The second one is called a match quiz, where essentially it's the same concept, right? It's a form, people give answers, but then they're assigned into different categories based on the answers that they gave. So typically a personality assessment or which product should you buy on an e-commerce store are the use cases here. So we're going to start with the lead qualification form. So for example, I need a lead qualification form for my sandal business. I want to know how likely someone is to buy a sandal. So you press generate form and Weavly AI is going to come up with a number of questions to qualify your lead. Of course, the better the prompt, the better the questions are going to be, but it's also going to set up the mechanisms to automatically score your lead and potentially show a different ending depending on how you want to set up the form. So let's give Weavly a second to build everything and we'll come back once it's done. Okay, so let's have a look at what it came up with. So we have three simple questions. Are you interested in purchasing new sandals? That's a pretty important one for lead qualification. The occasions and activities that people typically wear sandals and their budget, right? So we have three different answers depending on how cold or how hot the lead is. So you might not want that. So you could potentially have either a single outcome or just the same three ones, but with the same text. We'll come to that later. And then, of course, the important part is how is all of this wired up? So if we go into the settings, you'll see under the lead qualification settings, the three outcomes that we have, but also the score that you need to get in order to become a cold, a warm, or a hot lead. And so when you scroll down a bit, you see for each question, the answer and what the score is for that particular answer. So AI set this up for us automatically. You could of course tweak this manually if you want to fine tune it or if it isn't entirely correct, or you can potentially add other outcomes, right? So what happens now is if I publish and I fill this in, I will get the answers I have to these questions, and potentially if I want to capture an email address, for example, I could also get that. So let's add this to the form. Also capture email from respondents. And then Weavly is going to add us an email field, which of course isn't part of the qualification because you can't score an email address, but it will gather us the email that we need to then contact our respondent. So let's go ahead and publish our form, copy the URL, fill this in, and then we'll see what the results look like. Let's say I'm very interested. I only wear sandals for the beach and I have a budget over €100, and then I'll leave my email address right here and press submit. Thank you for your submission, and we get the fact that we're probably a hot or at least a warm lead. Let's check this out in the results. So we get my email address right here, the answers that I gave, and the outcome is that I am a warm lead because I have a total score of 7. In case that you don't want specific outcomes, you just want the score, you can either just delete the outcomes from within the outcome page, or you can ask AI to just harmonize, so just basically have the same text on all of the different endings so that there's no custom endings depending on what the person answered. So that's the first type of form, that's the lead qualification form. The second type is a match quiz, and we're going to build that out so that you can see the difference. Okay, so for example, for a match quiz, you could ask, I want a personality quiz which assigns people in one of the 4 Harry Potter houses based on their traits, right? So this is obviously just a fun example, but another one would be to assign a particular product to somebody visiting your e-commerce store. And then depending on their answers, you advise them to buy a different product. So again, we'll just press generate form, and Weavly is going to come up with the questions that need to be asked, but also the outcomes. So in this case, the outcomes are going to be the different houses in Harry Potter. And then it's going to wire this up, and we'll have a look at how the wiring happens and what goes on when you actually fill out the quiz. All right, so again, what we have is different outcomes. We have an outcome for each house in Harry Potter, and we have all of the questions based on which we'll have our separate outcomes. So if we look at the wiring itself, we again go into settings, match quiz, we have our outcomes right here. And compared to last time, we don't have a single score per question and answer, but we have a weight that we assign each answer, right? So for example, the most valuable quality, if it's bravery, that's a point for Gryffindor. If it's ambition, that's a point for Slytherin. You can add additional weights if you want to. So you could say, for example, bravery is both a point for Gryffindor, but it's also a point for Hufflepuff, for example. Then that's completely possible. And essentially AI did this for us for every question and every answer. And so as you go through the form as a respondent, you gain points for a specific outcome, and then the outcome that has the most points is the one that will be shown to you as a respondent. So let's try this out. Publish the form right here. Let's fill this in and try to get into Gryffindor. So bravery, we prefer the hall filled with cheers. I guess it always put the first one for Gryffindor. Let's find out. And then courage, submit, and hooray, we are indeed Gryffindor. So looking at the results, you can see again, obviously the answers that I gave, and then the outcome which I perceived. Now, this doesn't make much sense in a lead generation setting or an assessment setting. You'll also want to gather email addresses, etc. But you essentially get the drift, right? So you have lead qualification, a single score based on which you want to see how qualified the lead is, or an assessment. You want to assess where a particular lead might fall in a different set of categories. And then, of course, you show the category to your lead. What I didn't show you is that you can completely tweak the theme and the style of your form. You can also set up integrations. So if you want all of that data into Google Sheets, or if you want it to be in HubSpot, because that's where your leads live, obviously there's a whole bunch of different integrations as well. But this channel or our help desk contains a whole bunch of different tutorials that talk about all of these different functionalities. So that's a topic of a tutorial on its own. If you like these kind of videos, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.